Doo-doo-dee. It's Nandi!
Hello friends, I've done 3 videos this week and it's tiring, but we're persevering. This video is on Ragnar Blackmane, who is releasing via Legendary Release event on November 19th. The other videos, in case you haven't seen them, are a new faction preview with 3 showcased characters, as well as a video for the Black Templar faction rework. I hope you'll indulge me some misspeaks and small errors. I've broken this video down into 3 segments. Firstly, I'll show you the character himself, showcase some gameplay footage, and show you his skills in action. I'll have my customary infographic explaining my recommendations and Ragnar's place in the meta. Spoiler, I think he's going to be great. Next, I'll explain what the legendary event is, how you can unlock Ragnar, break down the enemies you'll face, as well as give you my own personal infographic resources. Finally, I want to cover and highlight what I think is one of the best community resources in the game, the Tacticusapp Planner app. You can use it for the Ragnar event and it has loads of information, is fairly intuitive to use, and is an excellent resource adjunct as we continue to enjoy the game. Ragnar Blackmane is the youngest Wolf Lord of the Space Wolves faction and is frequently at the forefront of the faction's planetary assaults. He is an incredibly powerful, violent melee warrior, and Snowprint has captured those traits well in the character they have brought to the game. This is the character screen where we can look at Ragnar Blackmane. As usual, the art department have done a fantastic job, and I'm a particular fan of his giant chainsword, Frostfang. Over on the right hand side, you can see the traits that Ragnar Blackmane has. Beast Slayer is a trait that's already in the game and allows Ragnar to do plus 20% melee damage to big targets and vehicles. It also gives him a bonus chance to block. The thing I want to point out here is that all guild raid bosses are big targets, so essentially Ragnar will get a damage boost to all big targets, and rather all guild raid bosses. The next thing we have is Final Vengeance, which is a trait that we already see in the game where the character does a final attack as it dies. And the third trait we're seeing is new to the game, it's called Rapid Assault. It gives the unit an additional movement until it's made its first melee attack, and that first melee attack does a bonus 25% damage. So that, I suppose, takes us nicely to his stats. Ragnar has a stat movement of 3, which increases to 4 with Rapid Assault. The rest of his stats here are visualized at Diamond 2, and he only has a melee attack that's a chain attack with 7 hits, which is, I think, the highest in the game. In terms of his items, we have a crit item as well as a crit booster, and Ragnar is able to equip the Iron Halo block, which has the 35% block chance. The next thing we can take a look at is his active ability, War Howl. This is used at the start of Ragnar's turn and gives Ragnar as well as all friendly melee characters unstoppable, bonus crit chance and damage. And after using War Howl, Ragnar can move and attack as normal. So essentially this is a free action. His passive ability is called Saga of the Warrior Born. It means that when Ragnar has come into contact with his melee target, he deals bonus hits and also deals bonus critical damage. If Ragnar has defeated 1 or more enemies, then friendly Space Wolves all will also get the Saga of the Warrior Born trait. So if you can get Ragnar to kill an enemy early doors, then the rest of the Space Wolves will be increasingly ferocious and lethal for the remainder of the battle. Here we've got Ragnar Blackmane facing off against some of the most dangerous enemies of the Warhammer 40k universe, the Tau. And here I just want to demonstrate a couple of things in action. Ragnar Blackmane ordinarily has a movement of 3, which would see 1, 2, 3 his turn end here, or on these barbed wire hexes. However, you can see these extra hexes of movement available, particularly here and here, because of his movement 4, triggered by his Rapid Assault trait. Now, what I also want to show you here is how much damage he would do, so I'm going to just skip through these turns so that you can see how much damage he would do to each of these enemies. You can see the different damage totals applied here, and I suppose here the juxtaposition is that Ragnar is going to get a 20% damage boost against Revas, because Revas has the big target trait. However, Revas also has almost 2000 armor versus Shozel's 1600, which is why we're seeing conflicting damage numbers apply when we're looking at all these different characters. Now, as soon as Ragnar comes up and makes an attack, you can see on the following turn, if I move aun'shi and Shozel and Revas further away, that Ragnar's movement is now down to 3. 1, 2, 3 hexes. His movement trait is no longer green, and Rapid Assault has already been satisfied. The next thing I want to show you here is his active ability, which is War Howl. Now you'll see that if I move, I'm no longer able to do that active ability, but if I use it at the start of my turn, then I'm still able to take a completely new action. It gives us a cool sort of visual, and you can see the damage numbers here are now much higher than they were on the previous turn. This second clip really is just an opportunity for Ragnar to bring a friend along against the Tau, and all I wanted to show you here is exactly how his passive ability applies to his friendly Space Wolf allies. So we'll remind ourselves here that if Ragnar has defeated one or more enemies, that other Space Wolves get this Saga of the Warrior-born trait, meaning they get an additional 3 attacks. So we'll go through a couple of these turns here, and then we'll see how that applies to Ulf. So the tower just waiting for this to trigger, and now that we've seen Ragnar kill Shozo, Ulf gets his turn. He's got a marker here that says Saga of the Warrior Born. He gets an additional 3 hits, and critical hits deal additional damage. Now that isn't manifested here on his attack, it's still showing him as having 3 hits, but if we go up and run him to aun'shi, you can see several attacks and he just kills the character outright. The only other thing I wanted to point out with regards to Ragnar Blackmane and his passive ability is that there are inflection points. By that I mean when you unlock the character straight away, it just does 1 bonus hit, but when you take his passive ability to level 18, it gains a 2nd hit, and the 3rd hit comes at passive level 36. Next up, let's take a look at the Legendary Release event. If you've been playing Tacticus for a while, you'll be familiar with this sort of release style, but I'll do a quick preamble for those of you that are watching who are newer. These events are designed as mid to end game events that test your roster against fixed enemies and traits. The idea is to force you to build a wide roster with characters that fulfill a variety of traits in order to achieve success and progress. There are tracks to the event, and each track has its own usable characters and requirements. This is the first run of the Ragnar event, and any progress that you make is saved at the end of the week, and you will be able to build on this progress in future iterations of the event. On this page is a rough guide to what the required character levels are to succeed, and you should expect to clear at least 8 levels for the Alpha, Beta and Gamma tracks if you want to unlock him as a free-to-play player. If you're willing to spend, this requirement reduces slightly. In terms of event scaling, you can see on this slide how the event starts to get more difficult at higher levels. The Alpha and Gamma tracks have elite enemies to function as further obstacles from level 6 onwards, and all 3 tracks will have unique faction characters at very high levels. I've also taken the liberty of breaking down each section by enemies and giving you some insights into strategies in order to make the most progress. For the Alpha track, we face Orc enemies. The enemies are shown here on screen, and the main strategies are twofold. You want to try and trigger battle fatigue as much as possible, and that is done by overkilling enemy units. This will allow you to cause large swathes of orcs to flee the battle from a single enemy death. The other thing to keep in mind is not to let the grots multiply and get out of control. In Beta, we face Thousand Suns enemies for the first time in a legendary event. The kill order is listed on screen, but the priority is to kill the pink horrors, as they are the ones that do psychic damage. Psychic damage triggers the Weaver of Fate's faction passive for the Thousand Suns, meaning that anyone with the trait deals maximum damage for the rest of the turn, and this can have devastating effects on your forces. The other thing to point out is the Rubric Marines do fire damage and should therefore have a relatively high importance to kill, as fire damage does a lot of hex effect damage each turn. Gamma is a return to the Black Templar's enemies. The most lethal of these is the Plier Blaster Initiate, who does an area of effect fire damage. As previously mentioned, the damage quickly adds up. The other thing to note for this event is how they have changed the way that the chests reward shards. Previously, you would get 10 shards per chest and need 150 to unlock the character. That has changed, as you can see on screen. The chests now give 25 shards, and you need 400 shards to unlock the legendary character. Here, you'll see me scrolling through the different gameplay sections for Alpha, Beta, and Gamma, as well as giving you an idea of what traits are required and how many points are required for each trait. Now don't worry if this is all happening very quickly, the idea here really is just to give you a flavour of what's to come. I have taken the liberty of breaking down these traits and requirements and putting them into infographic form for you to consume and download at your own leisure. I've taken all of that information and summarised it here onto this slide. Feel free to pause this video here if you want to take notes. The only change here from the information that was data mined is that the power track in Gamma awards 105 rather than 100 points. On this slide here, you'll see my summary infographic that will show you every character in the game and how many points they'll score on this event. The amount of points that a character scores isn't everything, and it's often important to consider how they will survive or synergize against wave after wave of enemies. To that end, I've taken the liberty of highlighting a few characters here as recommendations. Isabella is an excellent healer that lets you grind through waves of enemies. Yarick scores well and is able to bring useful summons to battle. Angrax can be planted next to an enemy spawn point and deal loads of damage to enemies that immediately come out. Maladus and Rotbone work well in tandem by clearing lots of enemies, being survivable, and both applying the contagions of Nurgle aura. aun'shi is a versatile character that can heal and reduce incoming damage, and the Tyrant Guard is another flexible character that can reduce incoming damage. There are of course other characters that are good, but these are the ones that I have highlighted, which I think will give you good yield and characters that I have built up for this event. On this slide here, you can see my infographic, which is a very simple Google sheet that just shows you all the characters in the game and what sections they are useful for. You'll be able to access this via a link in the video description below. The last thing I wanted to do is highlight this excellent community resource made by a player called Severin, and what it is essentially a community resource that allows you to plug your roster in, visualize it online, and see how it feeds into other aspects of the game. Now I'm sure there's a lot of stuff here, but it's quite intuitive, so I'm not going to go through everything, but just give you a brief flavor of it. The webpage is tacticusapp.app/home, and I'll leave a shortcut for this in the video description below. Essentially what you have to do is just manually update this section. You do it once and then that's you, and you just update it with your characters, whoever you've got unlocked, and whatever difficulty, or rather what gear tiers you have them unlocked at. He's then got a section here for all of the active legendary events, so we can take the Ragnar legendary event as an example. You can use this section that says only unlocked and look at the characters that you currently have and see which traits they are usable for. You can switch things like lightweight view if you don't want to have the character images there, and you can unselect things like auto teams or not look at alpha, beta, or gamma if you're only interested in progress in a certain section. And you update the roster once, you update your roster once, and then you can apply those same principles to any legendary event that comes out, whether that's aun'shi or Shadow Sun being the two other current legendary events, or if there are any future legendary events, I'm sure that Severin will update this accordingly. There's also sections here where you can look at the characters and you can see every character in the game, what alliance they have, and all of their characteristics. You can look at upgrades, you can look at ranks, and he's also got a section here where he looks at my Dirty Dozen, and he's very kindly scored all of the characters here based on my recent video where I rank the top 30 characters in the game. So excellent resource. I think you should check it out. I think you should thank him. I'm not sure if he's left a way for you to thank him, but he's done this, I think, as a labor of love, and it's a really excellent resource for the community. So I would very much encourage you to check it out and explore all of the different functions that it has. That's all I've got for today. Sorry it's a long video, and sorry I'm a bit tired. There's been a lot of content to record and edit and piece together for you all. If you've enjoyed this video and my content overall, please consider using the referral code on screen. It will earn you 100 Blackstone and support me in the work that I do. However, it is single use, so choose who you support carefully. If you've not already seen them, please check out my other videos, one on the Black Templar faction rework, as well as 2 the new faction release with 3 character previews. Bye for now.
Doo-doo-dee. It's Nandi!